Good afternoon, everyone. This is Carlos Ponce from Dojo Live, and today is August the 20th. And today we're going to be speaking with our guest. We're going to be speaking with Nirit Rubenstein, the CEO and co-founder of Dovlys, which is a fully automated a platform for credit repair based on AI. Welcome to the show, Nirit. It's really good to have you here, and thanks for having joined us.
Thanks for having us.
So, absolutely, it's our pleasure. So, Nirit, let's start with. I would like to start with you. Let's tell us and tell the audience about you. Tell us a little bit about your background and your expertise. Anything you want to share with the audience.
Sure. So I really started my career in the Israeli army, where I think I learned a lot about teamwork and collaboration, camaraderie. And from there, I relocated to the US with my first job, working for a large tech company out of Israel, and got recruited by Salesforce. So I was very fortunate to have worked at Salesforce for about 5 years, pre-IPO for most of that time. I started in finance and worked my way into different departments, and then decided to go to business school at Berkeley. Mm-hmm. And following that, I decided I wanted to switch careers into conventional marketing, and so figured where better than consumer packaged goods marketing. So went to work for Del Monte Foods. At the time, they owned a lot of consumer pet brands like Meow Mix, Kibbles and Bits, which are brands that I got to work on. From there, moved to Los Angeles for personal reasons and took a job with Green Dot. So Green Dot is the largest prepaid debit card provider in the country. And that was my forte into the underbanked or unbanked consumer, and really understanding the need for financial tools for people who don't have access to credit. I worked there for 3 years. I was the general manager of the Green Dot flagship division, and then got recruited by a private equity firm who had just acquired a credit repair company. And that got me into the industry I'm in now. I took a 1-year hiatus after the credit repair company to go be chief operating officer for a large unified communications company in Phoenix called Nextiva. And that's when I realized my passion was kind of consumer credit and helping people. And so that's what led me to co-found Dovlys.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
And move on to start my own business with Tedis.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that your background on. Now, tell us a little bit about the company. Tell us about Dovlys. What's your value proposition? What's the story behind building the company? Pretty much anything.
So there's a lot of different components to it, but in reality, we're solving for a few different things. First of all, about 70% of the US population have errors or issues on their credit, so they have a score that is underrepresented than what it should be. The second major problem is there's a lot of companies out there marketing to consumers with the goal of matching them with a financial product. So think of like a Credit Karma or a Lending Tree. And they're disqualifying about 70% of their leads because their leads don't qualify for the services. And then, so with Dovlys, they, in essence, they're able to provide a value-added service to their customers. And then the third real problem is that when you look at the people that have errors or issues on their credit, they really only have the ability to turn to the traditional credit repair companies. And the traditional credit repair companies do more of a disservice than they do a service. They are ineffective, they're expensive, a lot of them are being sued by the federal government. They really don't care about your credit. So we saw a need for a better solution, and we are very tech focused. So obviously thinking of how technology and innovation can play into this space.
Great. Thank you so much, Nirit, for sharing about Dovlys. Now, I would like to jump into the topic of the day, which, as I said when we were chatting off the air, I find it very interesting, intriguing, to say the least. It's the 3-digit number that never sleeps. You're going to
Right.
tell us, right? So, and then this is, in other words, how technology can help viewers with their credit score or to survive the pandemic, right? So, Nirit, why did you choose this particular topic, and why did you think it was relevant or for today's day and age?
So for a number of reasons. First of all, the world is in this global pandemic where pretty much everything is kind of out of whack. But at the same time, your credit score and the credit bureaus have not changed any of the practices or the ways that your credit is being used or reported. And so it's kind of a reminder that even though it seems like our world has changed, these 3-digit numbers that in so many ways determine our access to financial products and therefore our ability to have that financial peace of mind is still the same. And so with everything going on, a lot of people are either forgetting about their credit. Identity theft is on the rise right now in the pandemic. There's a lot of aspects that are impacting our credit, forbearance loans. There's all these aspects impacting our credit. And I think it's really important that we are more vigilant now than ever. We lost you for a second there. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of froze for a few
Yeah,
seconds.
I lost the whole screen for a minute.
Yeah, we'll never know. It's just unpredictable, these days. So yeah, but please continue.
So that, I mean, did you get the whole? I don't know where it left off, but the point being that credit is more important than ever. The way credit is being reported is not changing. There's a lot of loans out there that are being offered to people that are not doing them. They're not helping people, and so people may not know that they shouldn't take advantage of some of these things being offered. And I think it's just important that people are more vigilant than ever now with their credit.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I hear you. So, Nirit, let me go back to the topic or the name for today's conversation. What is the 3-digit number that never sleeps?
It's your credit score.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So
Okay.
your credit score is a 3-digit number, and it impacts really every aspect of your. I mean, if you give me a situation that you need to do something financially, your credit score is most likely going to be involved. You need a house, whether you're renting or buying or refinancing, you need a credit score. You need a car, whether you're renting or whether you're leasing or buying, you need a credit score. You need a cell phone.
Absolutely.
You need a credit score. You need credit cards. You need a credit score. So it impacts every aspect of your life, and it's a number that it never sleeps. It's always ongoing. The bureaus are always reporting, and creditors are always trying to lend to you, and it in some ways controls your financial future in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so now let's move on to AI. You mentioned also that there's some AI component in today's conversation. So would you like to elaborate on that, please?
Sure. So Dovlys' entire kind of offering is dependent on our algorithm. And so my co-founder has spent over 20 years in the consumer credit space, really understands all of the nuanced items that pertain to credit. And there's thousands of them. It's a very, very difficult subject to navigate, and it's extremely detrimental if you don't get it right. And so we developed an algorithm that incorporates all of your different credit factors, and depending on what you're trying to accomplish, will facilitate any negative disputes you have and dispute them with all 3 credit bureaus on your behalf. And we do it in a way where we don't leverage humans at all. It's a fully leveraged technology. And the more we have data on customers, the better our algorithm gets. And so that's kind of that's our secret sauce. It's the foundation and building of our algorithm, and the continuous improvements and enhancements to our algorithm that make it stronger, and understanding how to dispute items and get them removed, because the best way to improve your credit score if you have negative items is to remove them off your credit. And that's what we do.
Okay, absolutely. So, and for those who are watching, how can you say to that Dovly could actually do more effectively? How can it help our viewers to, repair their credit score and survive the pandemic? You kind of stressed that part of survive the pandemic, and I'm interested in asking you why you stress that part. So what was different before the pandemic, and what's going to be different after the pandemic, and how what role does Dovely have in that transition or navigating the what lies ahead? So,
Yeah.
can you please elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's not that it's really different. The credit has always been extremely important. It was very important before the pandemic. I think it will be more important after the pandemic. And the reason it's important to really keep a pulse of your credit during the pandemic is for a few reasons. Number one, with everybody being online right now, identity theft is insanely increasing. And so you need to be on top of your credit to see if you are being a victim of identity theft. The second major piece is there's a lot of loan forgiveness or forbearance loans that creditors are offering that seem to be appealing if you're not, if you're not really aware of credit and how it works. It could be extremely tempting to take one of those, but in reality, they could end up really hurting your credit. And so what would happen is if you're not keeping up with your credit, or you're not aware of what you should or should not do during the pandemic, you will come out of the pandemic with a poor credit score. And then let's just say you're unemployed, you've had impeccable credit, you now need to refinance your mortgage, or you need to get a personal loan or a line of credit. You won't be able to do that if you didn't take care of your credit. And so it's kind of like elevated in terms of it's going to be much easier to ruin your credit during the pandemic, and it's going to be more important to have good credit coming out of the pandemic. So it's all about making sure you're doing the right things. And at Dovly, when you enroll in our service, we're monitoring your credit on a daily basis. We're removing negative items. We're aware of any fluctuations, and we're communicating with you about what you need to do or don't do. And so we're kind of like your power behind your credit, and making sure that it's staying intact.
Okay, thank you so much, Nirit. I have a question about a different. Well, the platform itself, about Dovly. What would you say has been the biggest, let's call it the biggest challenge, in your opinion, in your industry overall, related to improving Dovly's customer experience and its impact on adoption?
So I would say the biggest impact is actually the bad name that the industry has. So credit repair has a very, very bad reputation, and it's actually justified. All of the traditional credit repair companies, they leverage a call center model where they have agents that are aggressively calling you and trying to sell you into exorbitant monthly plans. They don't use any technology or machine learning or science to determine how to improve your credit. It's that call center agent that's determining what to do for you. And so you're in a situation where you're already financially strapped, or you have bad credit. You're seeking help because you're at the bottom, and the people helping you are taking advantage of you and just charging you a lot of money to do basically nothing. And so that's our uphill battle. It's to really make that shift in people's minds that we are a consumer-focused company, and we are a technology company first and foremost. And it's all about leveraging technology and innovation and helping customers, and doing it in a way where everybody who needs the service should be able to afford the service. You shouldn't have to pay $100 a month to improve your credit.
Okay.
And so So that's really our goal. Our vision, our mission is to make financing accessible to the broad population, to democratize financing.
So yeah, that's definitely a good service that you're going to be doing it to a lot of people out there. Definitely.
70%
So,
of the population.
absolutely. So, Nirit, what would you consider regarding again Dovly as a company? What would you consider your greatest accomplishment up to date? What's or maybe a leapfrog moment that you had that and the that for your company and for the markets you serve?
I mean, obviously hitting our user count, and hitting certain milestones in user count was a huge milestone. Raising our seed fund from a top rated venture firm is a huge mark. But more than anything, when I hear from our customers and I realize that there's people that have been trying to get a mortgage for 17 years, and after 6 months on our platform, they qualified for a mortgage, or people that are able to now save money and put their children through college because of what we were able to do for them on their credit score. And so those to me are the most impactful milestones. It's all about the customer and what we're able to do and how we kind of provide financial peace of mind to our consumers.
That's I'm just thinking where based on the context of what we're talking about, the especially the COVID situation and all the challenges that it's imposing on a lot of industries and a lot of verticals and a lot of types of companies. What I would like to ask you is, I don't know, given all these changing circumstances, how do you go about deciding, let's say, who to partner with, who to integrate with, those types of decisions? How are you going to go? How do you go about? How are you going about? Taking those decisions, given the circumstances that are taking place nowadays?
I mean, I don't know that the circumstances change much. Our goal is to, if we're offering something to our customers, we want to be a product or service that is in line with our ethos, where it's a company or a service that really cares about their customers. It's a customer first mindset. It's a forward-thinking company that's innovative and not really kind of antiquated or archaic. And so for us, that same ethos has driven us since day one and will continue to drive us well beyond the this pandemic. It's partnering with companies that share the same values that we do and care about the end user as much as we do. That's the driving force of determining who to partner with.
Perfect. That's awesome. Okay. Going back to a little bit about the AI and the technical aspects of Dovly. Considering that AI and machine learning, these are relatively new areas, or it's a relatively new thing in the tech space. How do you go about validating new features and functionalities in such a fast-paced market?
I mean, it's actually fairly easy, right? For us, it's about tangible results for our customers. So we're able to see, okay, 3 months ago, we were able to, on average, improve customers' credit scores 50 points in 2 months. We've made these tweaks, or the algorithm is, if it's working, then that number would go up. So in 2 months, you would be able to improve a customer's credit 60 points or 70 points. And so it's all about making the necessary tweaks and then analyzing and making sure that what you're doing is actually working for the end user. And for us, it's all about results. It's pretty tangible. It's very easy to know if we're helping people or not. Their score either goes up or it doesn't.
And it's in the end, being it machine learning, it's all about the data, right? So it's so how do you how although I'm not an expert in the field, because I gotta confess that I'm not an engineer, but I'm very interested in the subject of machine learning and AI from the spectator side. Let's put it that way. So what I'd like to ask you is, how do you deal with raw data? How do you make sure that you got the right output? When it comes to implementing AI and machine learning into the platform.
I mean, I think that's where my co-founder comes into play, right? He
Mm-hmm.
can look at a credit report and really tell you everything that you need to know, what you should do, and how, what the best approach is. And so for a long time when we were building our algorithm, it was, is the machine being trained to do what he would do? And so
Mm-hmm.
we would throw it in and see what the machine does, and then see what he does, and marrying that. And then
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on, it gets smarter than him, because we see that this combination of these outstanding balances with these creditors, with this time, history, is the best combination for Experian, whereas for Equifax, a different bureau, it's this combination and that combination. So it's all about building the different combinations
Mm-hmm.
that are going to reap the best results. And again, it's all results driven. We see it
Mm-hmm.
in our results.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, we're approaching the final segment of today's conversation. So before we run out of time, I'd like to ask you about the company as a place, to work. So it's about the culture of the company. Just one little thing is, tell us about your company culture a little. What are your guiding principles? Or in other words, let's put it this way: if say that. Someone's watching and is intrigued about the company culture, might even be thinking of, hey, I want to work with you. What would you tell these people about the company culture that you go by, that you abide by to make it a great place to work?
So I think a lot of this comes for me comes from two very important places. One is the Army and
Mm-hmm.
my experience in the Army, and two was actually my experience at Salesforce. So to this day, Salesforce is the best company I've ever worked for, and I was very fortunate to experience Mark Benioff firsthand. And he was one of the most influential leaders in my life. And his entire MO was, first and foremost, you take care of your employees. If you take good care of your employees, they're going to really care for your customers. And if you really care for your customers, then your revenue and your business is going to thrive. And that's kind of how I think about it. I mean, in terms of culture, it's a very open-ended culture. I want us to move quickly. I'm happy, for us to fail as long as we don't make the same mistake twice. I want everybody to have a voice. I want people to feel like they're part of something that's important. I would say the biggest challenge with COVID actually has been the culture, is not being able to see people face to face. We've grown and we have new employees that they're not immersed in our culture because they're not embedded in it every day. And so it's,
Mm-hmm.
how do you maintain that camaraderie? I want team members that look out for one another. When I worked at Salesforce, we were all very competitive for ourselves and wanted to excel in the best possible way, but we were not competitive with one another. We were a
Mm-hmm.
team. And so that's really what I'm striving for.
Mm-hmm. Great, excellent. I'm very happy to hear that. There are not a lot of companies these days think that way and are so welcoming it's what we call them, a great place to
Yeah.
be at, right? It's
Yeah.
one of those places that
A lot
you
of
look
companies
forward to every
tout it.
morning.
Not a lot of companies really live by it.
Mm-hmm.
Salesforce is the only company I've ever worked for where they really lived by what they said.
Okay.
And I've worked for some pretty big companies, so it's really amazing how few companies kind of really try to focus on that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I'm sure that there might be more out there, and I'm sure there are. Actually, as a matter of fact, I belong to one of them. It's great. It's a type of everyone has a say at least, and it's good. It's a feeling good. It's a company, and hopefully these types of companies are going to be in increasing numbers. We're coming up on time, and before we go, there's one more thing that I would like to ask you, is to simply tell, if you were to come up with some final words of wisdom for those who are watching, in terms of and especially about the topic of today, which is technology and how it can help the viewers' credit score survive the pandemic. What are some final words of wisdom that you could share with the audience that you would like to leave them with?
So first of all, have a very strong pulse of your credit. Monitor it all the time. Pay special attention to changes in address, That's what first thing a fraud person will do is when they steal your identities, change your address. Pay a lot of attention to inquiries. Those are the two underlying factors with identity theft usually. We're home, we're getting a ton of offers for, credit card this and this mail and this loan. And just because you're getting the offers does not mean you should apply for them. Avoid applying for things you're not absolutely in need of right now. And if you are going to take advantage of some of the forbearance loans out there, make sure that the companies are following the CARES Act, and make sure you understand if a company is going to forgive a loan or defer a loan, that you really understand the terms. When does it start? Is the payment balance going to be added to the end of your balance? Do you have to pay the full amount when it's over? Understanding all of the terms and get it in writing. Make sure you get everything you do in writing. So those are kind of, I would say, the most important things to think through right now as we're in this pandemic.
Okay. Thank you so much. Where can our viewers learn more about your company?
You go to dovly.com, Dovly.com.
Right here, right?
Right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and also you're on the. Are you on Twitter, LinkedIn, anything you want to share?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, all of those. So just Nirit Rubenstein under my name.
Okay, and we also have Dovly on Twitter, right? If I recall correctly.
Yep.
Ruben, do we have it, Ruben? Yeah.
Yeah, at Dovly too.
It's right there.
Yeah.
So we got, folks. There you have it. And the only thing left for me to do, Nirit, is to thank you big time for having been with us today. I'm sure that a lot of our viewers are going to find this information of great interest. And before we go, I'd like to remind the audience that we're going to be recapping on next Monday. We're going to be recapping the 3 interviews of Dojo Live at Monday, 1 p.m. Pacific. It's just a 10-minute quick recap of including this conversation with Nirit today. With that being said, well, again, Nirit, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We were honored to have you here, and I hope to that our viewers are going to be reaching out to you. And by the way, you can besides the links that we shared right here to Nirit's company, Dovly, there's also going to be right there on the landing page of Dojo Live. So look for all the info is going to be in there, folks. So thank you so much,
Thank you,
Nirit.
Carlos. Appreciate it.
Okay, stick around for a second before we wrap up. Thank you, and see you next time, folks.
Thank you.